Let's do this. Hello, friends and patrons, and welcome to our first of what will hopefully be a regular update series I'm doing on my DragonCon costume for the Page 2 Stage costume contest at DragonCon. The goal for this costume contest is to try and take literary characters and bring them to life through cosplay. I decided to do Luthair from The Nightmare Arcanist, written by Shammy Stovall. It's a very good book, part of an awesome series, and I encourage you to check it out. For those of you who haven't read the series or seen my previous video discussing the character, here's the description I was given that sold me on the project.
Luthair is a shadowy suit of armor made of darkness. His cape is black on the outside, but the inner lining is of the night sky, complete with twinkling stars. His helmet has horns, and his boots have claws. The armor can shift and move, as shadows can, but is sturdy like metal. His cape can break into two halves to become wings.
So after reading that, of course I'm going to have to do this character. I've always loved making suits of armor as part of my cosplay work, and I've had to come to terms with the fact I have a bit of a helmet problem. Please send help. So as a result of that obsession with helmets, I decided to give myself a nice little avatar for these videos. Now, to be clear, this is not my original work. In fact, it was done by a very good friend of mine, Skies Art and Doom. They're a wonderful artist and cosplay friend of mine who I've commissioned for a number of pieces over the years and realized if I'm going to be doing this more professionally, probably should have a decent logo. I highly encourage you to go check out their work. They're an amazing artist and have some amazing stuff. I'll make sure to try and remember to include a link to their Facebook below. Alright. Enough dilly-dallying, let's get on to the actual costume. So the plan was to try and start off with the wings. That's been a bit tricky because I don't know how to make wings, so this is new territory for me. I knew I wanted them to be able to move so I could capture both the cape and wing aesthetic properly. So I ended up consulting some friends of mine over at Hacksburg. They're a community makerspace full of people who make all kinds of stuff, so if I figured anybody would have a clue how to do this, it would be them. Unfortunately, they were busy with prior obligations, so I had to wait about 2 weeks before I could hear back from them about recommendations for what to do. So, rather than lose 2 weeks of build time, I figured I'd start prototyping something that I know all too well. I started prototyping the helmet. Part of the challenge for this particular project is the fact that there's not a ton of artwork for the character, but there's also a very distinct vision for what they needed to look like. So I went to the author and asked them for some help. Once again, thank you Shammy Stovall for being very patient with me. So I was really drawn to this particular piece of art, where it's got a very traditional knightly aesthetic, but with just enough odd fantasy elements to be really fun. So the challenge I had was trying to figure out how to get the visor to look proper, and get that strange sticking out of the side head bits. So I found some templates that seemed like they were a pretty close fit and started prototyping using EVA foam from Harbor Freight, since that's a lot cheaper than the really good stuff I use these days for my costume, but are a good way to get a feel for what it's going to look like and how it's going to wear. The first helmet I prototyped was vaguely modeled after a Dark Souls helmet, and yeah, it was tiny enough there was no way it was ever going to fit properly. So I took the same design and decided to upscale the templates and try adding the horns. I wasn't really all that satisfied, so tried changing tact. The next attempt I feel like got much closer to the mark. I tried adding EVA foam clay to give it its slightly organic look like in the picture. I think I'm going to go with this design moving forward and try and really flesh it out a bit more, and really give it a slightly more organic, ethereal look. So that's going to be part of my project for the next 2 weeks. So, speaking of, what am I going to be working on in the next 2 weeks? Well, with any luck, I'll hear back from Hacksburg and I'll be able to finally get cracking on those wings. Seeing as those are going to be the most complicated part, I really want to drill down and focus on those. In my spare time, I'm going to try and finish this helmet and maybe start doing a little bit of 3D modeling work so that I can 3D print some of the components for the sword. I have interesting ideas for the sword. It's going to be fun. I hope you all found this informative and keeps you up to date and sees where all of your hard work is going, as I'm trying to make sure to deliver regular content updates and make sure you feel like you're as involved with this as I am. So, I'll see you all here again in 2 weeks, and stay tuned to my Patreon and Facebook for regular content updates. Until then, friends, sign-offs are hard.